So now I'm gonna talk a little bit of this Lacan's trauma concept that uh, usually occurs when a comeback of the reference is failed. So the connection of the symbolic symbol and what the real event happens is where the mismatch can occur. So to produce archives produce themselves in their fragments, deciphering and developing symbolic evaluation that express desires, whether conscious or repressed, in excess of the lack of the effects of self-care. The colonial politics inferred by new documentalism, with its biographical performance scope of reenactment, seeks to introduce criticisms evidenced by the TK in the encounter of the real contingent. The the system of signifiers normalized and automated by the social constituent powers, the automaton, is then put in check by its critic. The contingent real, evidenced by Lacan, constitutes itself as a field of action where history can be written or even unfold in its complex ramification, points of view and paradoxical truths, revealing constituent powers, intentions, and violence. How psychoanalysis is a proposal for thinking about the subject can shift and redirect the ordinary ways of conceiving of the political subject and worked by the lines of tension that cross social space and helps to confuse it. So the art, the archival art, and especially the critic that involves in this symbolic experiment and construction is what I indicates as a dispositive of inflection between archiving and psychoanalysis. So archiving the suppressed, the unheard, forgotten, or violent erasure legacies imposes a difficult endeavor and challenge for those who struggle for making a stand in its identity, defense, history, and ways of living. The social struggle for proper rights is a political matter that can be performed as a cultural sense to affect others and recollect, introduce, and maybe intervene in a collective memory and history. Remember and input the present body as a dispositive of memory can be archiving technology as its relation to art and the social contingency. The biographic body can tell histories and be proven of knowledge production as well witness of becoming itself subject and agent. The discovery of the subaltern, as well the colonial being, infers the danger paradox of alterity. The discovery of others is already a genocide. Art proposed to think this other body outside of these identity regimes built by dualism, colonialism, orientalism, racism, etc., creating sensible context. Performance, then, is the anti-ethical to document because of its disappearance nature, resisting the ocular hegemony of the visible and surveilled remains of this archive. Both archive and performance materializes itself through disappearance, as the archive itself becomes a social performance of retroaction. The dispute of the notion of ephemerality in performance are a conflict discussion since the archive can only be fixed if by a social performance of value, memory, heritage, patrimony, etc. So, although the conflict is not just the written language versus the spoken language, but the static file versus the repertoires of incorporated and distributed knowledge practice, it is not binary or sequential, but it interacts with intrinsic patterns of exchange and expansion. Contingency in the activation of social and non-organic networks. And I bring this last reference on the movements of the contexting the statutes of colonial past, as well in the recent capital event, showing how this appropriation performative of social memory can take place. So all the statues of conquerors should be placed in the museums of democratic secular city, so that they serving as an education of who were these murderers or Indians, of who, for their residents, deserve to be recovered and celebrated as part of our human landscape and our life in common. So I hope to fill in some gaps in the next question section.